Selamat datang di program studi Ekonomi, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Program studi ekonomi memiliki visi menjadi program studi ekonomi yang unggul dalam pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi berlandaskan nilai-nilai Islam di Asia Tenggara pada tahun 2025. Program studi ekonomi bertujuan membentuk lulusan yang kreatif, inovatif, menguasai teknologi informasi dan komunikasi, serta berwawasan nasional dan internasional. Program studi ekonomi Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta memiliki 4 enrichment course, yaitu ekonomi pembangunan berkelanjutan, ekonomi kreatif, ekonomi kesehatan, serta ekonomi keuangan dan perbankan Islam.
Welcome to Faculty Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Economic study program with excellent accreditation is the right place for those who are interested in becoming professionals in economic institutions, banking and finance, and also research center Indonesia. Economic study program Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta is the third of the best study programs in Indonesia in the field of economics, econometrics, and finance based on Simago institution rankings. Economic study program Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta born to be number 1.
The Economic Study Program, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta has 2 graduate profiles, namely as economic analysts and entrepreneurs who are equipped with knowledge and insights on various topics related to the problems faced both in macro and micro spheres. Various analytical tools are studied and applied in various cases, supported by technology and integration of Islamic values in each courses.
Dalam memberikan pengalaman belajar yang prima bagi mahasiswa, program studi ekonomi memiliki beberapa fasilitas yang menunjang pembelajaran, seperti ruang kuliah yang nyaman, perpustakaan, student lounge, kelas IT, BI Corner, Bursa Efek Indonesia, mini bank, masjid, fasilitas olahraga, kantin dan kafe mahasiswa, serta sportorium. Selain itu, program studi ekonomi memperkenalkan rencana evakuasi darurat seperti jalur evakuasi, titik kumpul, alat pemadam kebakaran, hidran, serta baju pemadam kebakaran. Melalui program internasional, kami memiliki kegiatan pertukaran pelajar dengan institusi terkemuka di dunia, seperti universitas di Malaysia, Tiongkok, Taiwan, Turki, Timur Tengah, negara-negara Eropa, dan Afrika. Alumni program studi ekonomi bekerja di beberapa institusi bergengsi seperti Bank Indonesia, Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, Kementerian Luar Negeri, Lembaga Penjamin Simpanan, Keuangan Mikro Syariah, dan lain sebagainya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Goedenavond, I'm Unity Tanya Velasta, IPF student batch 2019, Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. In here, I'm not only learning in the class, but also I have many other interesting experience, such as attending seminar with extraordinary speakers, learning culture and history directly in museum and other historical places. I also had the opportunity to do an internship here at COSAM, a company engaged in research and development in Turkey.
IPF had given me a lot of opportunities to enhance my potentials, including my potentials in international levels. So they always push me to the limit that I have to involve in many international activities such as student exchange, international paper competitions, and EDGE. And this experience really helped me to fostering my leadership skills, my independent skill, as well as my participation in international communities.
Program studi ekonomi mengadakan event internasional seperti International Conference on Islamic Economics and Financial Inclusion setiap 2 tahun. Summer Course International Training for Young Islamic and Economics Leaders setiap tahun. HIMI Economics Research Olympiad. International Research Dissemination Forum. Taiwan Higher Education Exhibition, and International Culinary Festivals.
OMA has a high qualified lecturers who teach in English on quiet, practical manner. OMA provide a lot of facilities to improve the well-being of the students. And also there are serious guest lecturers and international conference for Islamic economic and finance.
It's a wonderful place to be here at UMA, and I'm very glad to be able to contribute for a long-term sustainable change and development, and I'm very glad to be given the opportunity to be here and contribute my skills and knowledge for the betterment of this society.
Program studi ekonomi Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, kreatif dan berkarakter Islami.
The dreams and hope can give you motivation and hope in life. The quality process and an outstanding environment support you on your way to success. Here, you are taught how to have noble character to lead to a superior and Islamic personality. Yogyakarta is a city as a mirror of world growth that continues to advance along with optimism for economic growth and accelerated development in various fields. In this city too, the first international program for Islamic economics and finance in Indonesia is located. EPF is the international program for Islamic economics and finance initiated by Dr. Mashyudi Mukarrabin and was officially launched in 2009 in collaboration with the Department of Islamic Economics, Universitas Airlangga, Surabaya. EPF is structurally under Department of Economics Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah, Yogyakarta.
IPF is a leading and reputable international program in Islamic economics and finance for undergraduate in Indonesia. IPF has a large network nationally and internationally with reputable institutions. IPF students has been sent to many countries for exchange students: Malaysia, Thailand, Taiwan, Turkey, and European countries. I strongly suggest you to join IPF. The graduates of IPF has worked in good institutions, whether in government or in private sectors. All the best for you joining with IPF.
Our vision to become a leading economic study program in enhancing knowledge and technology based on Islamic value in Southeast Asia by year 2025.
To achieve such vision, EPF sets 4 missions including internationalization, academic excellence, research core base, and empowering people. There are various achievements at national to international levels which are proof of our quality, as well as various institutions that are members of cooperation in various fields from national to international, including Malaysia, Thailand, Taiwan, China, Korea to Spain. A perfect collaboration until we got institutional accreditation with an A grade from BANPT. What benefit you can get if you join this study program? including first, they will be given an opportunity to conduct students' exchange to EPF university partners. Second, a valuable opportunity is given to conduct internship in financial institutions and governmental authorities. Third, they will be encouraged to attend and participate in international conferences related to economics, banking, and finance. Fourth, they are prepared to reach English proficiency score or TOEFL. Fifth, they will be equipped by Islamic internationalization program and EPF character building programs. Facing competition in an increasingly open era of globalization, the development of insight, deepening of competence, and expansion of network is urgently needed to increase competitiveness. The strength of competitiveness also needs to be supported by the presence of professional staff with character, born from a superior education process.
Welcome to the International Program for Islamic Economics and Finance, Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. IPF prepares the professional and competitive graduates in the area of economics, banking, Islamic finance, and Islamic economics. Let's join IPF and be part of the international community.
The International Program for Islamic Economics and Finance has various excellent programs including internship course for 6 semesters, fieldwork study abroad, international internship program, Arabic course for 2 semesters, inbound and outbound student exchange program, international conference delegation, certification of competence, delegation of international summer course, and foreign guest lecture program. Graduates of this degree are suitably qualified for employment in financial institution, the Financial Service Authority or OJK, central bank, and private public services, both global and nationally. EPF UMY towards a reputable program on Islamic economics.
The world is becoming more limitless, and global competition is becoming more accessible. But that doesn't mean compromising our essence and abandoning our cherished values. Instead, it's an opportunity to showcase the greatness of our diversity to the world. Globalization demands that we stay abreast of the latest scientific developments to meet the needs of our time and serve humanity. That is why we need to open our hearts, continue learning, and never be content in our quest to become individuals who are excellent, modern, and guided by Islamic values. With this spirit, we believe that achievements are inevitable and that they open up broader opportunities for continuous progress and being at the forefront. Surely on the path of change, we will face obstacles that we must overcome, demonstrating our ability to conquer them. Health, environment, economic development, and other areas in need of improvement. To what extent can we stride forward and contribute to supporting our nation? We simply need not hesitate to try, for today belongs to us. We will hold hands, collaborate, work shoulder to shoulder, and together achieve success. Because we are UMP.
UMM aspires to achieve international recognition by accrediting its programs by 2022 to 2030, enhancing global competitiveness. The Strategic Internationalization Plan prioritizes AACSB accreditation, promoting innovation in curriculum development, ensuring relevance to global trends. In alignment with the objectives of developmental spirit of UMM, the Department of Development Economics strategically envisions its milestones. Commencing from 2010 to 2014, the program focused on strengthening the vision, mission, targets, and strategies, committing to emerge as a preeminent department in producing competitive economic scholars within ASEAN. As a manifestation of internationalization, the Department of Development Economics is rooted in an entrepreneurial spirit, Islamic values, and contributes to sustainable development goals. To fortify its international presence, the Department of Development Economics engage in benchmarking and collaborations with several ASEAN countries, including Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Malaysia, as a tangible commitment to internationalization. These endeavors, embedded in the values of the entire academic community, involve stakeholders in the Department of Development Economics. The reinforcement of collaboration in the Department of Development Economics is marked by academic and non-academic activities, prioritizing the alignment with the three dharma of higher education, alongside key partners known as 2D, business and industrial world, at the local, national, and international levels. Beyond this, ardently supports the three dharma, particularly in research and community service, by engaging with various stakeholders. These collaborations significantly benefit the development of teaching and learning activities, as well as the enhancement of the Department of Development Economics curriculum. The collaborative efforts take shape through activities such as seminars, workshops, guest lectures, and student exchanges. All the positive activities within the Department of the Development Economics resonate with various stakeholders, notably inclusive of students scattered across different countries, a tangible manifestation of internationalization. Further enhancing the soft and hard skills of the Department of Development Economics students, the program collaborates with stakeholders to fortify the MBKM program. To develop practical skills, students are empowered through internships in the professional field. Collaborative activities are meticulously planned to support the academic and non-academic achievements of the Department of Development Economics students. The pivotal role played by human resources is evident in the zealous pursuit of the vision, mission, targets, and strategies to attain excellence in the field of development economics.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to all participants of the first International Conference on Development Economics and Sustainability 2025, organized by the Department of Economics, University Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. This conference is an important step to work together and better understand the challenges of the development and sustainability today's changing world. This year's conference is held under the theme, Navigating Sustainable Development through Institutional Innovation and Human Capital Empowerment. First of all, I would like to thank to our co-hosts, which are University Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, University Atmajaya Yogyakarta, Bina Nusantara University, University Muhammadiyah Malang, and University Islam International Indonesia. We are glad that we received over 200 papers for this conference from more than 10 different countries. Now, let me inform you about our agendas. Firstly, we have a welcoming speech by the chairman, Dr. Khalifani As-Siddiqui, and followed by the head of the economic department, Dr. Dia Titis Kusuma Wardani. After finishing welcoming speech, our next agenda is keynote speech by Professor Dr. Enda Sabtuteningsi. Then there will be a plenary session moderated by Mr. Eki Imamul Muttaqin. After that, our last agenda is closing and photo session. So now, I'm really happy to give our session to our chairman, Dr. Khalifani As-Siddiqui.
Many of you had valuable opportunities to connect. This is exactly the kind of environment we hope to create through this conference. This year, we are proud to host over 200 accepted papers, featuring contributions from scholars and practitioners across 16 countries. From Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta alone, there are more than 90 papers have been accepted. This diversity of voices makes this international conference a meaningful platform for learning, exchange, and collaboration. The main theme of this year's International Conference on Development, Economics, and Sustainability is navigating sustainable development through institutional innovation and human capital empowerment. This theme reflects our belief that sustainable development is not just about growth. It depends on strong institutions that serve the public and on people who are equipped to lead change in their communities. As Darren Acemoglu and James Robinson write in their book title is Why Nation Fails, and I quote, "Inclusive economic institutions encourage participation by the great mass of people in economic activities that make best use of their talents and skills and that enable individuals to make the choices they wish." This reminds us of those strong institutions and empowered people who must go hand in hand. Our theme is not just a title. It is a shared commitment to finding new ideas and building stronger partnership to tackle today's challenges, whether economics, social, or environmentally. Today, we gather for the plenary session. We are honored to welcome three distinguished speakers. The first one is Professor Dr. Enda Sabtuningsih from our university, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. The second one, Dr. Vivi Alatas. She is a senior advisor to the policy team at the Coordinating Ministry for Human Development and Cultural Affairs. And the last one, but not least, is Associate Professor Firman Wituler from Australian National University. We believe each of them will bring valuable experience and insights that will inspire all of us. Before we begin, once again, I would like to thank to all participants for your contributions, and of course, our co-hosts from Universitas Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, Universitas Atmajaya Yogyakarta, Bina Nusantara University, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, and Universitas Islam International Indonesia for helping us organizing this conference. Last but not least, I would like to say a special thanks to our organizing committees for their hard work and dedication. I hope this conference continues to grow as annual space to share ideas, build networks, and influence policy in development economics and sustainability, both in Indonesia and around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, let us continue the journey we began yesterday. May today's plenary help deepen our understanding and strengthen our collaboration for a better and more sustainable future. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Dan akan profesor.
Thank you very much for your welcoming speech, Dr. Khalifani As-Siddiqui. Now, let's continue the welcoming speech. I'll give the time and place to our Head of Economics Department, Dr. Dia Titis Kusuma Wardani. Time is yours.
Economic Study Program, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, UMY, in collaboration with Purwokerto, Malang, UIII, Universitas Atmajaya Yogyakarta, Bina Nusantara University. This event marks a key step in fostering academic collaborations and addressing the evolving challenges of development economics. With the theme Navigating Sustainable Development Through Institutional Innovation and Human Capital Empowerment, this conference highlights the crucial role of institutions and empower human capital in driving sustainable program. We are honored to gather scholars and professionals from diverse fields to share insight and generate practical solutions that benefit both academia and society. My sincere thanks to the organizing team, keynote speakers, presenters, and all participants for making this event possible. May Icdes 2025 inspire meaningful collaboration and innovation. Warm regards. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for your welcoming speech, Dr. Dia Titis Kusumawardhani. Now we have come to keynote agenda. Our keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Enda Sabtuteningsi. Now I'm going to give our session to Professor Dr. Enda Sabtuteningsi.
Okay, thank you. Could we share the slide? Okay, thank you. Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning and warm greetings for all participants of International on Development Economics and Sustainability 2025. First and foremost, I would like to express my deepest respect to my fellow associate from Australian National University and Vivi Alatas, Senior Advisor at the Coordinating Ministry for Human Development and Cultural Affairs. And it is an honor to collaborate alongside both of you. I would also like Ladies and gentlemen, the keynote speech I will be presenting today is titled From People Power to Policy Innovations, Institutional for Sustainable Development in Indonesia. This presentation is not just theoretical reflection, but is grounded in more than a decade of empirical research I have conducted across diverse regions in Indonesia. These studies have reinforced a fundamental insight that people are not passive recipient of development, they are the drivers of it. And so I will invite you to explore with me how institutional innovations and human capital development can be not only buzzwords, but real levers of sustainable action, especially when led by communities themselves. Next. Let me begin with the provocation climate change. It's not just a crisis of carbon, it is a crisis of institution. In Indonesia, we have many crises like flood, drought, marine degradation, plastic pollution, and then these are not just natural. They are symptoms of deeper structural failure, of fragmented policy, absent coordinations, top-down planning, and disempowered communities. In my research, take Temanggung, Central Java, farmers lose their crops regularly to flood caused by erratic rainfall. In our study, 79% of them willing to pay for flood mitigation programs. But willingness not alone is not enough. The programs failed when designed without community involvement, without trust, transparency, or decision making. Even the best funded project flounder. Is what I mean when I say the climate crisis is institutional. Next. When we speak about the climate crisis, the conversation often focuses on rising temperatures, floods, and extreme weather. But what if these are only the surface symptoms of deeper failure? One, let me share a story from Temanggung, Central Java, an agricultural region damaged tobacco crops and these livelihoods. Our research showed that more than 75% of farmers were willing to pay for flood mitigation programs. That's remarkable, but this effort failed. Why? Not due to lack of awareness, but because of institutional breakdowns. What we saw was fragmented responsibilities between agency, poor communications between local and national authorities, absence of real community engagement. The policies were designed in Jakarta but implemented where trust in institution was low and traditional knowledge was never consulted. This is not just about Temanggung. We see similar patterns in flood-prone Yogyakarta, in waste management system in urban Java, and in forest governance in Sumatra. And the breakdown lies in governance structure that are too rigid to adapt, too top-down to listen, too silent to collaborate. So, yes, we face a emergency, but beneath it is an institutional emergency. And unless we fix that, even the best climate technologies and funding mechanism will they are designed to serve. Next. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah, we speak about the what is the institutional innovations? Sorry, I have a trouble. What is the institutional innovation? It is not about creating new ministries or drafting more laws. It is about transforming the process. Decisions are made and whose knowledge counts. Institutional innovation has three dimensions. The first one is participatory governance, which involving citizens not just as beneficiaries, but as co-creators of policy. And then the second one is adaptive institution, developing rigid bureaucracies to dynamic.
There are two.
Yeah, can you hear? Hello?
Yes,
Yes, Prof.
Okay, yeah. And the last one is multi-level integration, which ensuring that national, local government. A great example comes from Gunung Kidul, a drought-prone area. their local communities design rain harvesting system and applications. These weren't top-down interventions. They emerge from participatory design, traditional knowledge, and institutional improvisations. Next. Okay, and now let's talk about human capital. In development discourse, we often reduce it to education and workforce productivity. But in my view, human capital must be defined by agency, the ability of individuals and communities to act, adapt, and innovate. In Tasikmalaya, our research showed that women-led initiatives in waste management were more than municipal programs. Why? Because they are operated on trust, reciprocity, and neighborhood-based accountability. And then in Lamongan, a coastal fishing village, we found that social trust among fishers, actually their trust is in community leaders, but the strongest predictor of support for climate adaptation. And then in Ambarawa, tobacco farmers with access to a social network and association were more likely to engage in mitigations. So the lesson is clear. Investing in human capital must go beyond school and job training. It must include civic capacity, climate awareness, and the empowerment of women and local leaders. Next, let me now speak about what I call the hidden engine of sustainable development, that is social capital. Across all our studies in agriculture, fisheries, and waste, social capital consistently predicted people's willingness to pay, to participate, and to innovate. Why? Because social capital like trust, shared norms, and social network reduces transaction costs, facilitates coordinations, and builds long-term commitment. And yet, development policies still overlook this invisible asset. We spend billions of infrastructure, but pennies on social cohesion. We evaluate efficiency, but only measure trust. In post-tsunami Aceh, villages with strong social capital rebuilt faster and more inclusively. The same was true for disaster recovery in Yogyakarta and Lombok. These are not anomalies. They are indicators of works. Next. So, where do we go here? Let me offer 5 practical recommendations based on the evidence from Indonesia. The first one, support local innovation. Space for young people, women, and farmers can prototype and co-create solutions. The second one, map social capital. Every district should map existing trust network, cooperatives, and local knowledge system. The third one is reform village fund or dana desa. Allocate a fixed percentage of climate adaptations governed through budgeting. And then integrate civic and environment educations, not just in school, but through community forums, mosques, church, and farmer unions. And the last one is enable public governance, create platforms for co-management of natural resource across the institution and community. None of these require massive new budgets. It requires political will, trust in communities, and encourage to reform systems. Next, ladies and gentlemen, next. I want to end my return to the heart of sustainable development. Not data, not policy, but people. Too often, communities are treated merely as stakeholders, people to be consulted, surveyed, and managed. But I propose a different paradigm, one where communities are not just participants, but leaders of change. From Temanggung, Tasikmalaya, from Lamongan to Aceh, we have seen that local actors hold not only knowledge, but solutions. Farmers who know when the water safe, fishers who can read tides better than any satellite, they are not passive beneficiaries. They are knowledge holders turn solutions. What they lack is not awareness, but space. Not commitment, but a seat at a decision-making table. And that is what institutional innovation demands of us. Not just top-down framework, but bottom-up leadership. Policies that listen, budgets that follow trust, planning that values life experience as much as technical expertise. True sustainability is not engineered in capital cities. It is co-created in the village, on the coast, and in the neighborhood where resilience is life every day. So let's be clear, the path forward is we stop seeing people as barrier and start seeing them as the bridge. Next, ladies and gentlemen, as we draw this session to a close, let me leave you with a reminder. Sustainable development is not something we deliver to communities. It is something we build with them. True transformation happens when local wisdom meets institutional courage. When people are not seen as obstacles, but as architects of their future. And so I close with a simple verse, a reflection of that shared hope. Walk upstream, guided by light. Wise step taken toward what is right. Let's protect the earth with all our might, so future generations inherit its pride. Thank you for your attention, your commitment, and your shared journey toward a more just and sustainable world. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for your speech, Professor Dr. Enda Satotuningsi. Now, let's move on to our plenary session. This session will be moderated by Mr. Eki Imamul Muttaqin. Mr. Eki, time is yours.
Okay, now it's okay. Settle down. Now it's settled.
Okay,
Bu
thank
Vivi
you so
Alatas
much.
already come and join. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for this great opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to International Conference on Development Economics and Sustainability, hosted by our Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta. But first of all, I would like to introduce myself. I'm Eki Mamutakin. I'm faculty member of Department of Economics, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Jakarta. So here you are in the focal conference. Icdes is part of a focal conference of the 9th ECOC, and the 3rd is ICCS, powered by Directorate Research and Community Service. And actually we have been collaborating with UIII, yeah, Universitas Islam International Indonesia, Universitas Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, Universitas Muhammadiyah Malang, Binus University, and also Universitas Atmajaya Yogyakarta. And we would like to welcome you all presenters and participants, and especially for the speakers, Bu Vivi, Bu Dr. Vivi, and Pak Firman. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. For all presenters and participants, I would like to express thank you so much, and you have successfully presented their papers yesterday, sharing new ideas and also insights since morning to the afternoon, yeah, yesterday. And we are here in the second day. We are here in the second day for the main session, yeah, plenary session with two main speakers. But before that, before I hand over fully to the first speaker here, we have two speakers. I just want to express my gratitude that today's topic is quite interesting, yeah, for us to join this plenary session. Yeah, let me read the topic that we have in Icdes, yeah, International Conference of Development Economic and Sustainability. We have topic navigating sustainable development through institutional innovation, yeah, and human capital empowerment. So I think we have two main speakers here talking. They would like to talk about the poverty, maybe Indonesian life survey data, and so on and so forth. But before that, I just want to express that just a brief introduction about our current situation. Yeah, as we know, as many of us, we know that poverty is not just about income, right? It's all about access to education, access to healthcare, employment, and overall well-being. Understanding the complexity of poverty requires reliable long-term data, and we have also maybe inshallah Pak Firman will deliver a lot about the about his expertise in Indonesian family life survey data conducted over several decades. It provides deep insights into family dynamics, health, education, employment, as well as migration, helping us see the patterns, the root that can tell us about poverty in Indonesia, right? Coming from the family life survey data. Where the progress has been made, where the challenges remain, and how policymakers, researchers, and also communities, as well as we as academicians here, can respond. I invite you to engage this actively plenary session, ask the question, yeah, response, maybe have interruption, maybe have a suggestion, yeah, reflects on how this session will be insightful for all of us, yeah. So our first speaker, we have Bu Vivi Alatas, yeah. But before I give you time, Bu Vivi, thank you so much for joining us, Bu Vivi. I just want to read a very short CV, yeah, a very short CV of Bu Vivi Alatas. Yeah. Bu Vivi Alatas is CEO of Asa Creativita, a consulting and edutech company that she established in 2020. Yeah, Bu Vivi described herself as an economist with a true passion for poverty research. Yeah. starting her education with a bachelor degree in mathematics from the University of Indonesia. Yeah. And Bu Vivi completed here her PhD and master degree in economics at Princeton University, where she was awarded full scholarship. Formerly, she was a lead economist of World Bank, where she led a team of seasoned local and international economists in producing several flagship reports for national and global audience, including, I just want to read some more CV, targeting poor and vulnerable household in Indonesia, making poverty work in Indonesia, Indonesian rising divide, Indonesian job report, and aspiring Indonesia, expanding the Middle East. And so she presented various very insightful research findings to the president, vice presidents, minister, and deputy ministers. She also has written several journals papers on poverty, yeah, a lot, of course, yeah, inequality and labor issue. Some of the paper were written in collaboration with Nobel laureates, yeah, and who was also has who was also her advisor in Princeton University. Yeah, I couldn't uh, tell you more, yeah, about her, but you know very well about his exposure, yeah. But I just want to give you fully time for this session. Maybe Bu Vivi, you have about 40 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes to present your presentation, yeah, and then we have about 20 minutes for Q&A. Is it fine?
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Can I share my screen? Let me just try.
Yes.
Just a second. Can you see it?
Yes, great.
Yes, great, Ibu. Thank you very much.
Let's just slideshow from beginning. Okay, sorry for some misunderstanding. My slide is in Bahasa, and I
Okay,
think
Bu.
like when I look at the most of like the participants are in Indonesians. What I would like to talk about is like how addressing poverty alleviation is not just the role of government, but the role of everyone. And using behavior approach, because a lot of the times the issue is not just about more spending or better spending, but having the right behavior along the life cycles. Of course, with its being University of Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, I would like to emphasize that this is our duty in terms of like addressing poverty, because Surat Al-Ma'un emphasize that who are the yang mendustakan agama, the liars, are those who are not giving food to the poor. But at the same time, we also know like times is our main assets. And Surat Al-Asr showing that we are in loss. We are totally in loss if we don't do certain thing, including watawasabil haki, watawasabil sober, which is counseling each others about the fact, counseling each others for persistence. And at the same time, Surat Ar-Ra'd ayat 11 emphasize that Allah will not alter the fate or what happened to a kaum until they do the efforts themselves. So what I'm saying here, this is basically saying that addressing poverty is our jobs. Everyone has to do it through changing behaviors, and the changing behaviors through watawasabil haki and watawasabil sabr, counseling each other about the facts and counseling each other about persistence. And I'm saying like part of like today's is actually part of like my trying contributions of doing this watawasabil haki and watawasabil sabr. So everyone has the same hope in life, either like they comes from poor families or comes from rich families, like ability to climb the ladders of life. And the ladders of life started with the earliest ages, which is like we would like to have children who are healthy and also flourishing. And then after that, like getting like at schools, and then afterward like you have like a working, and then at the end you have elderly. In each of the stage of life we have certain hopes, and this hope is happens for everyone. But at the same times, like being productive, being healthy, being wealthy, and etc., it's depends on certain behavior, crucial behaviors that you have to do along this life cycle. For example, in early stages, there are certain behaviors that needs to be done. For example, having uh, delivery at the right facility, having ASI, which is breastfeeding, immunization, nutrition, early childhood. We all knows how important all those things. And then also at the same time, school is not just about access, but also actually about like getting knowledge. And then after that, being a life learning, learning because like with everything is happening, the only possible way to adapt is being a lifelong learner. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that you have like healthy behaviors so that you could have like uh, elderly life, which is like with a good health and ability to enjoy it. But we also know that there are very a lot of shocks and critical vulnerabilities along the life cycles. For example, in early stage, uh, maternal mortality is still a big issue in Indonesia. Indonesia have maternal mortality almost 10 times than Malaysia. For every child, the most important things for them is like in their first day of life is like having their mother alive. And this is some things that the shocks could have a lot of jeopardized implications along the life cycles. We also would like to make sure that children are actually in school and not getting dropped out of school, and also learning from school. And when they are ready to come to the labor market, they got the right uh, jobs. But there are also shocks like at unemployment, under unemployment, or even harvest failure, and or even like all kind of like having jobs but actually very much with almost nothing that can actually address their needs in their necessity needs in everyday life. But after that, elderly, you also have like another shocks, which is like illness or lack of like saving or being left alone. So the ideas of climbing the ladders, the ideas of addressing poverty is about making sure that you have this crucial vulnerability addressed. You also have the critical uh, behaviors being conducted along the life cycles. Yes, of course, government has a lot of roles, but those who are in the driver's seats is like everyone have is in the driver's seats in terms of like ensuring that they could climb the ladder of life. Let's see about like this crucial behavior supposed to be some things that everyone knows it's important. Everyone knows that this will have a beneficial impact in their life or even in addressing uh, poverty trap, generational poverty trap. But at the same time, we saw that only 74% mothers conducted pregnancy consultations. At the same time, for example, like ASI, breastfeeding is the best gift that mother can give to their children. Around half of baby in Indonesia do not get exclusive breastfeeding. Uh, Immunization supposed to be free in Puskesmas, but only around 63% of children in Indonesia got full immunizations. ECED supposed to be the best 1 year in ECED. A return to the education is better than 1 year in university. But you could see that there are still more than 50% of Indonesia children that do not get ECD. Of course, the issues can be not only just about money, not about economy, but also access and others. We can talk about it later. But this is like another crucial behavior that did not happen in the early stage of life. After even like when you already like, of course, Indonesia have almost universal enrollment for primary school, but later on we can see that when ijazah is in hand, when they got the certificate at the end of like primary school, at the end of junior high school, or at the end of like a senior high school, there is a temptation of dropout, and this happens. And you could also see, even though like the good news is like this dropout rate is getting better, being addressed better in like if we compare 2019 and 2023, but we could also see there is a big jump, a big differences between someone who came from a poor family, from quintile 1 family, compared to children from quintile 5 families. You have a big differences in here. So there is a need to addressing this dropout. Why people will not want to send their children to school, even though there are KIP, there are program keluarga harapan, KIP kuliah, and etc., or even LPDP. But people did not send, still quite a lot of poor household, quite a lot of non-poor household, also not sending their children to school more than like beyond SD. Another crucial behaviors is of course reading. This data is quite a long time ago, but I think that probably the insight is still the same. If we look in terms of the proportions of high school students who read textbooks in last week, only around 28% of high school students come from poor families claim that they read textbook last week. For non-poor, it's almost double, but still not 100%. If they don't read textbooks, then like how can we be ensured that access to education means access to learning? Another issues of like crucial behavior. This is for youth between 15 to 25%. The idleness is more than 20%. It's actually around 30%. Idleness means not in training, not doing anything. We are keep talking about bonus demography. If we don't address this behavior, willingness to take chances, willingness to be outside their comfort zone, it will be difficult for us to attain whatever our dream of Indonesia 2045 and etc. At the same time, labor force participations of women in Indonesia has been stagnated since decades between 50 to 53%. Another crucial behaviors that are not taking place. Youth unemployment is a big issue in Indonesia. And the biggest youth unemployment is for those who it's actually university graduate. Even though every year almost more than 1 million new graduates, it's not easy for them to get jobs. And for some majors, it could be up until 40%. But of course, it could be a luxury phenomena where they probably have the time and the chances to wait more for a better jobs. That's why you have like higher unemployment. But still, 40% is quite big number. If not, of course, beyond it, there are certain things that we need to address to understand more why it's happening. One of the reasons is mismatch. There are two types of mismatch: vertical mismatch and horizontal mismatch. Vertical mismatch means that you have graduate degree, you have university degree, but your work is actually only require high school degree. Horizontal mismatch is that you have degree on certain type of major, but you actually works on totally different type of major. For vertical mismatch, it's around 27.9%. But for horizontal mismatch, it's around 68.4%. So university is not being used for learning, for getting the school, but only for getting the credential and signaling purposes. So the 5 years is not being used to make sure that you actually have the skills. You actually have the skills to do whatever you want to do afterward or whatever you want to improve afterward. Training should be something that being chosen both by employer and employee, because for employer, they have difficulty to find the right workers. This is based on a data quite a long time ago enterprise survey. It should be that they should be more willing to give training to make sure they get a better worker, a better type of workers with more productivity. But they don't do it. If we compare to East Asia Pacific and others, Indonesia company who provide trainings is very, very small, only around 8%. At the same time, among workers, training should be something for second chance opportunity to improve their skill, to ensure that they are able to adapt. But those who are willing to take trainings are those who are not the most needed, because training is high for those who have master degree or doctoral degree, but very, very low for those who have low education. This is another crucial behavior that did not happen. Also, we see this is, of course, a combination of supply side and demand side. Most of Indonesian workers got their job through kinship, through friends, through informal channels. Uh, Registering from job fair or contact company is very small compared to contacting family and acquaintances. Through probably not really KKN, but not really knowing where are the jobs and get the information about the job through informal channels. Let's talk about UMKM in Indonesia. For example, like UMKM like, or SME is very important in Indonesia because 97% of work, 97% of establishment and around probably 93% of workers in Indonesia works as in micro and small companies. And we keep talking about like the importance of, for example, access to fund, access to credit. But when we try to look at it, like 88% never asked for credit. And out of those who never asked for credit or even like got like being only 2%, 88% never got credit. Only 2% actually ever asked for credit and the usulannya ditolak, getting rejected. All others is because of like either they don't want the procedure, they don't feel like it, they feel like it's not the right one. So it's more about not willing to take credit. After, of course, having companies is a difficult, a complex things like, but very small numbers are conducted proper, not even proper, like minimal planning. Very small number are actually doing planning to ensure that it's not just trial and error. At the same times, we also know there are quite a numbers of SMEs empowerment programs, but very small coverage and very small take up in all kind of like these programs. Some probably still quite aware. Yeah, the use part is very small, 3%, 2%, etc. Aware is better, but still far from being universally aware. Probably sometimes it's around, for example, in terms of KUR, 48% or around 50% knows about KUR. But it means that the remaining 50% did not know about KUR. And other type of like programs are even worse. Indonesia is actually aging. Can we see we are probably in dangers of becoming becoming old before becoming a rich countries. One of like this is the projections done by BPS. By 2050, probably our population will be around 350 million people. But saving is important to ensure that at the end we will have a ability to have good life, to ensure that we can actually have the basic necessity, the money, the income to fulfill our needs. But even among the poor, only around 20% have some kind of pension, some kind of saving for later on in life. So what I'm trying to say with all of those is not trying to make sure, oh, everything is doom and gloom. What I'm trying to say is there are crucial behaviors that seemingly people should know about, that it's being important, but not being taken. Why? This is almost, this is because of like our mind is not a mega computer that just like doing everything's based on like objective analysis, what is the maximum kind of things. It's very complex. We have what Daniel Kahneman said, thinking fast and thinking slow. We have what Ibn Sina said, wahm instead of akal, that actually jeopardizing our decisions in life. For example, myself, I know that I need to lose some weight. But if there are gorengan in front of me, it is very difficult for me to say no to tahu goreng if it is put in front of like my in my desk, for example. So it's the analogy is like we know that there are goals that we want to take. The analogy is a riders and an elephants. The riders would like to go to a certain destination, and he knows that there are some obstacles along the way to go to the certain definition. What we need to do in here for the riders and the elephant, the riders needs to know how to go to those destinations. The elephants needs to be willing to go to take the steps to go to all those path of getting to the destinations, and they need to be able to address the constraint, the obstacle along the way between their started journey until reaching out the end of the journey. So in a way, they need to know, tahu, they need to be willing, mau, and they need to be able, mampu, tahu, mau, mampu. And this is the issues is like why seemingly important crucial behaviors are not being taken. Tidak tahu, not knowing, tidak mau, not willing, and tidak mampu, do not have the resources. Not knowing, it can be not knowing how to do it, not knowing the importance of like ASI, imunisasi, not knowing about their right of getting KIP, and etc. Not willing, mager, baper, like being doesn't want to go outside their comfort zone, or cognitive bias, having some fallacy thinkings or cognitive bias thinkings that constrain them from taking what they should do. Hoax, conspiracy, in terms of like not able to do capabilities. It could be because of money, it could be access, it could be lack of skills, etc. And how can we do it? Like this is coming back to bersama. We need to do it together in terms of like ensuring everybody's do more of these crucial behaviors. I would like to quote Esther Duflo and Abhijit Banerjee. It is possible to get some very significant impact on addressing the wicked heart problems in life by conducting seemingly small steps. If it is being properly thinking, properly planned, it can have a lot of impact. They are talking about like using some behavior science approach. There are quite a numbers of framework in terms of like using this behavior approach. East framework by the BIT in UK, or this a guide to using behavior. Sorry, and some of like the mind space framework and etc. Let me probably just talk about like some examples of mostly using the East framework, but some of it is very similar with other framework. Why? Something that very small things to do, and it's not rocket science approach, can actually make some difference. And my purpose of like sharing this, every one of us have some circle of influence where we can use this type of approach to change behavior. Part of this watawasabi haki and watawasabi sober. So the East framework have this easy, salient, easy, attractive, social, and timely. Let's talk about one by one. We need to make it as easy as possible. If we, for example, if the pension is being put as a mandatory, as something that right away being like this is for private company, for example, if it is being right away being put in deducted from your pay scale, you will not really think about it. For example, like when I was still with the World Bank, it is part of it that you have to, if you don't opt out, you will be put as in this pension. So make it as easy as possible. Another example is actually from this program in Mexico. This is one-stop shop for using for business registration, and this actually changed from 30 days that needed to do like the registration into just a couple of hours, and this actually increased business registration by 5%. Another things that actually showing how making it as simple as possible will actually make much different. FAFSA is an applications for getting scholarship, getting aid for those that comes from low from poor household. Previously, it's 8 pages with more than 100 questions. Only around what happened is 850,000 students that's supposed to be eligible are not registering. By changing the number of pages, by changing the number of the questions, it's actually impacting much more, impacting like from 40% to 55% increase in terms of filing, and attending college from 27% to 34%, just by making it as simple as possible. And this is happening everywhere in Indonesia, where you see like some of the registrations can be made much simpler. The other things like making it as salient, as attractive as possible. This is another results from, let me oh sorry, this is behavioral insight studies that actually using AI chatbot in terms of like decisions, how to get landing. It's actually increasing interactions from the users by 40 to 50%. So that this is addressing the not knowing in an easy way. Another things is like in terms of like how to make it attractive is actually using the emotional approach. These two letters being sent to similar people, like randomized, those who are just talk about statistics and etc. The why is comes from statistics, from logic. It's actually less impactful than if the why is comes from ethos. If it is being used like by looking at this Rokia, a girl 7 years old from Mali, the amount of like charity that they got is double. than the previous one if it is just based on numbers. Sometimes like the attractions is also coming from getting something. This is which is quite cheap in India, sorry. In India, the providing lentil for immunizations, it's actually increasing immunizations by 20 point percentage. We can do the same thing in Puskesmas and others by providing, for example, kacang hijau or other things. Getting the right messages to ensure that people have remember the messages is very important. Of course, nowadays it's becoming more and more easier to get the right campaign, but still you still need to make it as attractive as possible. Jodohnya bayi ya ASI. How long can you live? But of course we do need, like nowadays we need to learn from the marketer in terms of A/B testings and etc. How to make the UI, the UX, and etc. Or even like how to make it as look at as enticing as possible for those who are the target group. Even like we are sensory integration matters a lot. The disinfectant smell can actually urge us to do some bersih-bersih, like to clean up. And eating in a small plate is actually make us willing to take small portions and finish with less calorie compared to if our plate is actually. So there are ways to make our environment nudging us to do the right behaviors, not only through with words, but also making the right environment with all the five sensory. Berjamaah, social. This is one of like my main, my most favorite examples. So there is this program in, if I'm not mistaken, Zimbabwe, gap braids, not AIDS, because this program is not only in Zimbabwe, no, it's like being already being copied by other countries. AIDS is like one of the important the main issues there. So to get the message to the right people about the importance of not getting AIDS through using contraception, women contraception, the influencer that they use is not the influencer that have millions of followers in social media, but this salon apa namanya nih, petugas salon, like the one that helping them get braids sambil ngepang and etc. She talks about the importance of contraception. What happened is like within 6 years, 3 million of these contraceptions is being sold, and the program are actually being copied by 6 other countries. It's like who give the messengers matters. Really getting a set of like who are the right messengers for your message is very important. For example, in here, when you use the role models of someone who already did the same journeys and able to get the right role models for women in STEM, it's actually increase aspirations for women to took STEM studies to 15 to 20%. This is in Maladewa. Another things, of course, like using some kind of like gamifications or even interesting platform and etc. can also be some things that we can use to make more aware about certain program. For example, there is a competition, like competitions on business plan, national competition of business plans that provide 10,000 to 100,000 in Nigeria youth enterprise. It's actually making as easy as possible through this platform. It's increasing aspirations to join the competitions, and also getting quite a lot of significant results also. Another part is actually making it timely. Timely, for example, like this is coming back, this is like Save More Tomorrow. How this is like actually a program by Richard Taylor, the Nobel laureate with slow-mo, which identify people sometimes have the myopic belief and etc., discounted belief. But if you kind of like already have a commitment along beforehand, you probably will be able to ensure that they are not, they will do the right one in terms of saving more. This is they have to have a pledge of save more tomorrow, save when you 1 year from now when you got a new an increase in salary and by default, and this actually increased 78% participation, and after 4 years, most of them are still joining. Were still joining the program. Reminders at the right times, it's also helping with HIV drug adherence. And no reminders compare with weekly reminders and daily reminder. It's actually reminding every day is less effective comparing to weekly reminder, because probably people feel when it is being daily reminder, they probably then tend to ignore it. But when it is being done weekly reminder in terms of the importance of taking the medicines at the right times, it's actually having much more impact than just with the other no reminders, for example. Another, people are basically lazy. They will not do something if it is quite, it takes a lot of efforts. This is what happened when you try to make the default is the right behaviors. For example, in Australia and in Belgium, the default in terms of like organ donation is like if you don't opt out, you are opt in. In Denmark and UK, you are opt out unless you opt in. This is, you see like quite a lot of different. 98% in Austria are donor, organ donor. It's because only 2% did the opt out. Well, when you ask them to opt in UK and Denmark, it's only 5% to 15%. The architecture of choice, when you try to make sure that the default is something that actually beneficial, will have already make a lot of difference. This is taking into account that people inherently are lazy. The other things, this is like another where you do training for women, and then this training is not only just focusing on the traditional types of training, but also focus on psychological aspect of training, because a lot of the times the constraint of not willing to do something, it's more about mindset, more about cognitive bias, and addressing those will have better impact than just the traditional way of providing trainings. Another way of like another things of like in terms of examples is like sometimes the issue is too big that you probably need big actors to push this crucial behavior. Real men do not hit women, and you need to use Antonio Banderas and Shah Rukh Khan to ensure the message going to the right people, and people remember about this message. And positive deviant stories can help us really understand what might be possible to change behavior. For example, in Vietnam, trying to address the stunting issues among the poor, this is, if I'm not mistaken, UNICEF, trying to look in terms of what happened to those poor families that have healthy children, what they did differently. Apparently, they provide protein from udang-udang kecil, shrimps, when they collected from the paddy fields and etc. And they use it for the children nutritions. And this is something then like copycating these positive deviant stories and showing that there are examples from your own community that this could actually be addressed with this way, will have quite have more impactful results. So how can we do it? Basically, what we need to do is choosing the right behaviors that we would like to address. Apa, who, what, who, when, how, and then trying to get a sense like what are the main point, the main pain point, the main cognitive bias that happen to those target group, and then designing the intervention, piloting the interventions. For example, like some of the things that this is just to give a sense of like how bias happens. During COVID, we actually did like some survey. This is in 2020, probably around November 2020. And we were asking a survey to some of like women, so the target group are women. And 81% said that they don't feel that they will got infected at all. Of course, we all got infected. 62% felt that pandemic will end in about 6 months. So by mid 2021, of course, they were wrong. Yeah. So this overconfidence bias is like one of the bias, but there are plenty of other bias that we need to really understand why people are not doing what they're supposed to do. Mainly, for example, this is like worried about the side effects for a vaccination, worried about the safety of the vaccines, etc., and etc. Those against vaccines in general, religious reason, I don't think vaccine effective works, etc. Really get a better understanding their belief, their bias, their pain points will give us better understandings about what kind of intervention that might have a difference. Quite a number of toolkits outside there. One of like the one that I really like is a behavioral insight toolkit for entrepreneurship programming. This is by UNDP and easily can be downloaded by anyone. And this is about trying to look in terms of like what are the barriers for SMEs. And we actually could, coming back to these barriers, is like we could categorize these barriers into tahu, mau, mampu. Not knowing, not willing, and not capable, doesn't have the capabilities. It's either missing conceptual models about how to be a good entrepreneurs. Friction, feeling like too complex and all those legality and etc. Feeling helpless. They have like some failure before and then doesn't want to try anymore. Or self-identity, I'm not an entrepreneur at all. It's not for me, it's for other people. Or optimism and overconfidence bias, like really taking some things that believing that they will gain a lot of like profits from this without any proper planning. For example, this is planning fallacy, lack of self-efficacy, poor goal setting, scarcity mindset, negative emotion, lack of support, lack of networks. This is something that we probably, a lot of the time we have so many empowerment SMEs programs, but not really trying to get a better understandings of the barriers. What are the main barriers before coming up? It might not be just like we say previously, only 2% got rejected. All the others, why people are not taking it is mostly comes from a mindset issues, from the barriers that does not have anything to do with the access of the credit itself. So what do we need to do? Urun pikiran. This is coming back watawasabil haki. Urun disiplin watawasabi sober. Urun tenaga amal solehah. Urun peduli watawasabil marhamah in others. We can try to do like we have our circle of influence that we want to change the behavior by making it easier for them to know about the importance, to know how to do it, connect them with the role model, connect them with the right network, and etc. Or be the role model themselves, or even like doing a gerakan, doing it together with others. there are quite a lot of solutions that probably can give us some ideas regarding like even like using the norm, how to make sure the norms is actually positive and dynamic. For example, in Saudi Arabia, like showing informations about the aspirations of like their colleagues in participating in labor market is actually increasing uh, adaptability of so getting the normal should be something that more positive and minimizing bias that happens in terms of the selections criteria, making the form easier, making the form as much as easy as possible, creating network where they can learn from each others, and also giving like the right mentors, pushing for planning, pushing for mindset, growth mindset, etc. Make the default is the architecture choice with the right architecture choice to make it as easy for possible to conduct the behavior. So basically, what I would like to emphasize, everyone has a role in terms of addressing poverty. Some of the roles is might be you felt that it's just only a small things, but it actually can make a lot of impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bu Vivi. Thank you very much. Such a rich presentation. We have a lot of information that are fact, yeah, based on your experience. We can capture a lot of information. And if I could highlight and also conclude that actually we are still struggling to tackle what we call the issue of poverty and inequality, especially in Indonesia. And Bu Vivi also has already very well in terms of the cases coming from the African countries, for example. And you are, I think, for the participant here, uh, yeah, I expect you have a question for BPP and this is session for Q&A. Yeah, we have actually 15 to 20 minutes, yeah, for Q&A session. Yeah, but before that, I just want to remind you that please raise your hand in the Zoom chat. Yeah. And also, while you are trying to ask to Bu Vivi, please mention, please state your name and also affiliation. So this is the session for Q&A. Please, participants, the time is yours. Yeah, we have Pak Wahyu. Yeah, the time is yours, Pak Wahyu. Your affiliation and name.
Okay, thank you so much for the time. My name is Wahyu, and I was a student. So thank you for the speech, Dr. Vivi. First question is on the life letter. Many in our society must simultaneously traverse 2 or 3 stages of the ladder. This makes them highly vulnerable to the economic hardship with minimal support from the government. And is this their personal fault for being born into the poverty, or is it the government's lack of concern for the life of its citizen? Because I see in the ladder of life, in each stage they already have the problem. But how if some people feel like they need to throw the 2 letter at the time at one time? And then the second question is, what do you think about the way our society still seeks work through the family, who still has to ask their families to engage in the nepotism or something like that? And then is this due to the lack of the access to job information, or is it simply a cultural phenomenon?
uh, it's not, you cannot say that, oh, my main purpose is not saying that this is their own fault when somebody's, it's not saying that the government does not have role. The government has a lot of roles in terms of like making all of this constraint. Yes, indeed, when the ladder is not just only one sometimes, and also the obstacles can be more complex for some people. And actually, there are some study by Sandil Mulainatan and others that shows that when poor people are in a hardships, having quite a lot of hardships, their IQ decreased by quite a number, like if I'm not mistaken, around 7 or 9 percentage point. It is difficult to think right when you are overcoming a lot of hardships in life. And the issues in here is actually, I think, as I mentioned earlier, everyone has role, not only, but of course, government has a lot of roles in terms of like addressing all of these constraints. Resource constraints, the mampu constraint, mostly the obstacles comes from lack of accesses, lack of the right program, lack of spendings, etc. This is some things that government can do much better. But I think like in terms of even like on the other constraint, the knowledge constraint or the willingness constraints, government also have quite a lot of roles that they can do better, learning from other countries, learning from what works and what doesn't. But for those role and some part of the mampu role, the capability roles, we communities can also contribute more in terms of addressing those issues. I'm hoping that I'm answering your questions. Is there anything that I forgot to answer?
Pak Wahyu, do you have any response or opinion?
Yeah, thank you so much for the answer. For the second question about how our community shapes our behavior to seek the job with
Okay. So
information.
this is the complex issues, yeah. When the access is not there in terms of formal mechanisms, when usually when the quality of the educations is actually not really providing clear signals about who are the right candidates, etc. When the mismatch is quite huge in terms of like when the quality of education is quite still varies from one university and others. This is what happened. People rely on someone that they know, because then like they have like some kind of like informal assurance. We need to cut this equilibrium, which is like almost like a principal dilemma, prisoner's dilemma equilibrium. We need to make sure like to ensure that getting the right candidates and getting the right jobs is much easier. There is a need of like have easier formal mechanisms of searching from jobs. Of course, more and more you have like quite a lot of platforms that have us ability to search either either within Indonesia or even some freelancer remote works and etc. But those platform is probably more for those have like a bias, like education bias, urban bias, or even like technology bias and etc. So I think there are mindset that needs to be addressed. For example, mindset in terms of, oh, I will only accept those who come from the same alma mater. There is a gang, whatever kind of school gang. I don't know whether there is like University Muhammadiyah gang, ITB gang, or UGM gang, etc. UI gang, trying to only accept those who come from the same university. This is something that need to be addressed. When you are doing discrimination, you are actually not getting the best outcome of your search. And I think another is transparency and meritocracy that needs to be pushed more in terms of like what you want to emphasize, what you want to maximize is getting the best candidates instead of like getting the candidates that similar to you or you like or that will give you some kind of quid pro quo later on. So those things needs to be the mindsets of meritocracy, the mindset of growth mindset, the mindset of understandings that it's actually these discriminations, whatever name of discrimination, gender discrimination, ethnic, whatever type of discrimination is actually something that will give you less worse outcome than not doing discrimination.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fifi. I agree with you that we need to tackle the problem in our country. Maybe some businessmen or some government part, they don't realize that they don't get maximum payoff if they do some discrimination. So thank you so much for the answer.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Pak, for your question. And the next question from Pak Asri, Pak Khalifani Asri. The time is yours, Pak.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Eki, for the time. Hello, Ibu Vivi. First of
Hi.
all, I would like to say welcome to our international conference, and thank you that you all accepted our invitations. My name is Khalifani Ashidiki. I'm from Economics Department, Universitas Muhammadiyah in Jakarta. And actually, I want to talk a little bit about the mismatch between education and the labor market, and have in which that you have already shown us that this is a problem. The mismatch is a problem, especially in developing countries or in Indonesia itself. However, we've seen different kinds of efforts in order to address this issue. For example, like there are plenty of training programs, job fairs, also encouraging more proactive job search. But the gap between what people study and the work they actually do still seems persistent. And I know that this mismatch still continues until now, and what might be the long-term consequences for especially for young people and for the economy as a whole. And secondly, I was tricked by your statement, like there is a gang, Muhammadiyah gang, UGM gang, and then ITB gang. Well, that's the reality. I mean, people sometimes choose the second best options based on their gang, and instead of their skills or knowledge. So I mean, behaviorally, they think like it's the best to do or to accept candidates based on the relationship, not based on not objectively. That's what I'm gonna say. Okay, that's all the questions.
Yep. This is almost like kind of like, I don't know, like buying the cat in the bag kind of things. Kucing dalam karung, and sometimes they choose the karung instead of like the cat. So I think there are, in terms of mismatch overall, quite a number of things that needs to be, which probably can have like some ways of addressing these big issues, because mismatch will have this is something that needs to be addressed, because this is one of the things of why productivity in Indonesia is very low, why Indonesia cannot really compete in this AI technology and digital dividend technology, why what we export is still very much more crude based and material based instead of some things, why we cannot really climb up with all the others possible opportunities with others. And I think it needs to start by several things, like in terms of like, of course, Muhammadiyah will have like jaringan of education, etc. The things that needs to be put in place at the first thing is making learning as enjoyable as possible. What happened in Indonesia, I keep telling this anecdotal evidence that a long time ago, that presidents of World Bank came to Indonesia, and he came to kindergarten, and everyone was like, all the children are very active, asking a lot of questions, talking, singing, and etc. Then he was being brought to SD class 1, primary school, level 1. None of the children speak. They all just sit and not really asking questions. what happens? Why you did, like, what kind of brainwash that happened that you can change people, children, from 1 year, from being those curious George kind of like children to someone who just like being obedience. So you do need to change to make school as interesting, as enjoyable as being in kindergarten. The second thing is getting people growth mindset in terms of everyone can be smart. Otak itu seperti otot. What is it, like your brain is like muscle. If you use it, it will becomes better. And everyone can be smart in their own ways. People probably thinking smart is being, really a math wizard that can do all kind of like this class of champions activity. No, you could have different kind of smart. Everyone can be their own way of smart. Really giving them their being in the driver of their own life by finding their ikigai. What is it that they would like, that they are having like a lot of passions, having skill, having meaningful goal, and some things that knowing about like what's being needed by the market. And what happened in Indonesia, I still remember that even my math teacher said that I should be doctor. And my father said that I should be doctor, and I'm afraid of blood. I choose to be math students for my undergrad, even though probably math students are not being seen as a lucrative jobs later on. Finding your ikigai, then afterward there is a lot of things of like needed of reforming the education. The university needs to be reformed. Hari gini, you have so many ways to be a better coach of your students instead of just being one of the only way of getting informations. With the technology, with Coursera, edX, with ability to learn anything, what's needed is just mau. I think the reformations of like learning, the reformation of being lifelong learning, adaptability, learning, mentoring, using all those like framework that I share here to so that people are willing to reinvent yourself. What you learned 20 years ago will be obsolete if you don't learn a lot. So I think that will address the mismatch. Then nowadays is also there are a lot of ways to actually put more signals about your niche capabilities, showing your portfolio, showing what you have done, so that like they will not just like it will be their loss if not hiring you, because they know that you can do A, B, C, and D. This is the proof, and etc. Instead of just choosing someone based on their gangs.
Okay, thank you, Bu Vivi, for your response, for your answers. And just a little bit, I would like to respond that. And indeed, that one of the solutions that we need to reform the education systems, and about how the teachers and also the lecturers deliver and how we educate the young people. But I think that is also like it also related to the a culture that is already embedded in Indonesian people. And I have I have a case where um, you know parents, they don't like their kids to to answer, to talk directly to their parents. And sometimes like the children, well, they learn that in school. I mean the school system is already good. However, when they come home and the kids talk to their parents, and the parents doesn't like it because of the cultural reason, so they move the kids to somewhere else, which they think that the children answering the parents, they don't obey their parents, some
Yeah,
things like that.
this is
So
this
yeah,
is
that's the
something, the value of obedience.
Yeah.
The value of obedience is only for Allah. Even for parents, you need to respect. But you don't just say, like, if they ask you to do something that actually totally wrong, you have the right to say something. I think another thing that Indonesia needs to learning how to be more assertive. Assertive doesn't mean kurang ajar. Assertive doesn't mean like obnoxious. There are ways that you can be assertive without being obnoxious, with still being a good person. There are a lot of learning that you can do, because like what you don't want what happen is like people are not really talking about it, and it's coming up with the two types of equilibrium, which is not really right. It is silence, as if there is nothing, then what happened is passive aggressive, or violence, what happened is active aggressive. You need to be able to talk about discrepancies, to talk about, like, even with, I felt I'm one of the things that I felt like I'm being thankful, thanks God. I was raised in Solo in SD, TK, SD, SMP, SMA, di Ponegoro, where the the teachers allow me to be having different opinions. And when I moved to Jakarta, also the math teachers allow me to come back to say that I don't agree with their solution. And this is something that totally giving me a lot of like ability to see the beauty of math, the beauty of learning, and feeling more confidence. And like those, the kind of teachers that allow you to be yourself, allow you to have allow you to have proper discussions. Sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes he's wrong, and that's okay. This is something that I think quote unquote feudalism happens in Indonesia when teachers or docent felt that they are the main source of knowledge. Their way or their say, or even not only docent, parents can be their say is the say of God. It shouldn't be. You need to be able to talk to do. I think like the way to teach is also probably needs to be changed to coach and Socratic way of like through asking questions, etc., through experiential learning, to project based learning, instead of like just listening and memorizing what the teacher said.
Okay, thank you, Ibu Fifi.
Thank you, Bu Fifi and Basdi. Actually, we are running out of the time for Bu Fifi's session. Yeah, we move to the next speaker, and I would like to thank to Bu Fifi for your insightful presentation. And actually, if you are still in the Zoom meeting, we are very happy to see you here. But if you
Sorry,
have
I have to go. I have to go
right,
to another places.
yes,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much
We
for
know that.
inviting me.
Sorry, can
Good
we
luck.
take a picture first before
Yeah.
Bu Fifi
Okay.
go?
Yes, please, operator. One, two, three. Once more. One, two, three. Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, Bu Fifi.
Thank you, Bu Fifi, Dr. Fifi. Assalamualaikum.
So we jump to the next speaker here. But before that, I just want to say greeting to Pak Firman. Pak Firman.
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, clearly. Thank you so much, Pak Firman. Okay, but before that, I just want to introduce him very short. Yeah, Pak Firman. Pak Firman Witular Kartadiputra joined the Indonesia project Art Gordon Department of Economics, Crawford School of Public Policy, Australian National University, November 2018. Previously, he was the research director of Supplementer, yeah, and a research organization based in Yogyakarta, Indonesia, and a research economist at the Development Economic Research Group at the World Bank DC from 2009 to 2013. He held a PhD in economics from Michigan State University. Yeah, I couldn't say you more. I couldn't tell you your CV more, Pak Firman. I'm sorry for that. But the time is yours, Pak Firman. We are very excited to listen from you, your insights, your very wonderful presentation. The time is yours, Pak Firman. You have around 30 to 40 minutes, yeah, for presentation, and 15 to 20 minutes for Q&A. The time is yours, Pak Firman.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I would like to thank UMA for the invitation to share my reflections about my research. So I'm now going to share my screen. Yeah, and I'm sharing the right screen. I'm sharing the slides, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm happy to be here, and this is my talk, and today I'm going to try to invite you to explore how a targeted investment in people, in human capital, and using and also introducing a gender lens, and can help Indonesia reach the ambitious target of a 2045 vision. Okay, so as is part of the theme of the conference. So I would like to start with a quote. This is from Alfred Marshall, which economist in his 1890 textbook Principle of Economics, who says that the most valuable of capital is that invested in human beings. Okay, so that's everybody talk about human capital, but was not always been the case, because we used to think capital as something physical. So, and I would begin by reminding us that Indonesia has set a bold goal to become a high-income, inclusive economy, and this is related to a long-touted concept of demographic dividend, which we hear probably since more than a decade ago. People have been talking about demographic dividend, which allude to the period where the proportion of working age individuals are much larger relative to the dependent population. And people have argued that, well, you can have demographic dividend, but with that, in order to achieve this ambition, we also need sustained investment in human capital. Okay, sustained and strategic investment. So in this talk, so we know that education and health have been established as central to economic growth, but there has been mounting evidence that gender responsive investment will yield effects, multiplicative effects, and or gender insensitive or investment that is not gender responsive can doesn't reach the potentials, and it can have effects across individuals as well as across generations. So today I want to consider I want us to consider how can smarter investment in education, health can be amplified by gender equity. So the structure of my talk. So I'm going to go through discuss a little bit theoretical underpinnings of the human capital, just to give a refresher to all of us. And then I go a little bit beyond Becker, and where I'm trying to introduce the importance of gender in the analytical and empirical framework. And then what I'm going to do in the rest of the talk, I'm just going to draw examples of research, mostly those that use Indonesia Family Life Survey, and looking at how education and health and the human capital change over time. And then I will conclude. So, and the reason that I'm using that research lens is due to my involvement in Indonesia Family Life Survey, and my research focus around the topic. Okay. So let's start by going back to the theory. I apologize, it's not as as engaging as Bu Fifi's presentation. I can hear Bu Fifi talk even 1 more hour. So it's so engaging. So, but I have to take you back to theory. So I want to remind us about this paradigm, the human capital, that looks at people as the key driver of growth, of productivity, right? Where human capital is seen as a stock. It's a stock of knowledge, of skills and health, education, and other attributes. And it is a capital in a way that household or individual invest in order to get returns over time. And time is important because you invest now and you expected to get returns and higher income. It could be healthy life and improve well-being. It is rooted in the economics of household, where we always start with the household maximizing utility subject to resource constraints. So it's a fundamentally microeconomic decision. Okay. And why use capital? So, well, because physical capital needs investment. You invest in a factory or in machinery, and you also invest in building your stock of capital. And like physical capital, investment requires cost, and you will get returns that occur over time. So you invest in education with the expectation I'm getting a higher wage, right? Or invest in doing sports, eating nutritious goods, and expect to have healthier life. But a lot of time we forget that capital is also depreciated, and this is true also with human capital. And Bu Fifi just told us brain is muscle. So just like a physical capital stock, your skill, your knowledge can depreciate when you are not working, or when you retire, or when you leave the labor market, your skill can depreciate, right? So that in that sense, it's very much like a capital. And there's also a private and social rates of return, and this is where it's going to be important because this means that there is externalities, there is spillover of your own investment, and the externalities can mean to your family or to the society. And the existence of externalities means that it's a justification for public policy. So public policy will play a role in determining human capital, even though fundamentally it's an individual or household decisions. And finally, time is a key factor because you invest now to get the returns later, and there's always trade-off, intertemporal trade-off between now and later. And because of that, I think as an analytical framework, or that longitudinal lens is critical is crucial to be able to follow people as they move over time. And this is also as like Bu Fifi showed us earlier, as people move the ladder over their lifetime, right? Now, and gender. Becker actually he thinks about gender. He thinks about he has this body of work about economics of the family, where decision this human capital decision are shaped by gender roles, and this leads to a theory of specialization and so forth, right? And he thinks about altruism, about time allocation, where there are biases between the gender role. So he is taking into account gender, but then he also I think the approach is always has been that as a market will eventually solve some of the problem, including gender problem related to differences in gender. So, for example, as economic growth, he just assumed that gender roles will not be as segregated, and norms will change. And you can see, and we know that that's not true. So there's a lot of criticism that that this approach more or less ignore entrench the differences in power dynamics in balances that is there because of norms. Now, so yeah, in countries where there's patriarchal norms and there's different bargaining power, then neglecting gender blind policy, neglecting gender will be detrimental for the outcome, because that means you ignore these power differences. So we need to somehow incorporate the frameworks that address other issues like capabilities and thinking about social norms that view gender is not as an explanatory variable, right? But also as a design lever. When you think about policy, you have actually used think about gender as a policy lever. So the next thing what I want to talk is go through a series of evidence and based on just examples. So these by no means comprehensive examples that try to look at our achievement, Indonesia's achievement in education, in building and health, in building our human capital, but also trying to see where we still fall short, and particularly when it comes to gender. So again, I apologize that I'm going to go through another, back to a little theory just to give a framework that we can think again education as a stock, right? That is cumulative to a production function, where there are things that individuals and household can control, right? So, but like how much schooling inputs, right? Yeah, that they buy, how much, I go to school. I just want to go, my children to take, high school, and then that's it. So that it depends on things that you can control. It depends on, of course, on individual characteristic, but also depends on external factors in which there where policy can come in. So then household make this investment to accumulate the capital, which then create the demand for education. So again, it's ultimately a micro decision, and it will be determined by the cost of investing in additional year of schooling, for example, or in an online course, thinking about how much marginal returns you will get over time, and trying to maximize your to do the constraint optimization. Now the input itself, schooling inputs are not like the quality and physical, are supplied by government or the private sectors. So again, there's a role of policy. Now, in that case, when we look at the outcomes, that we can see how gender can play a role. There are channels where, yes.
Share to us your biggest challenges in doing the community service. We can start from Mirza, and then Fauzia, and then Pak.
Sorry?
Please continue, Mas Firman.
Okay.
It's just...
Okay, sorry. So we look at the outcomes. There are, and these are some of the examples where gender differences, the potential channel for differences. There could be girl or son preference in how parents invest in their kids. There are different costs, whether it be a monetary cost or distance or difficulty to get in terms of access to school. And and also in terms of the obligation at home, domestic work, what kind of work girls and boys are supposed to do, which is determined by norm, right? Now, so those are again where just to emphasize how gender play a role even in the early part of our human capital investment. Now, let me go to what happened in Indonesia, right? So there has been decades of improvement. If you look at two key human capital indicators that we always use for education, that would be years of schooling and illiteracy rate. And this is from Sri Mulyani's chapter in a book that they published with NU at NU, part of a conference. It looks like okay, we're on the right track. Human education is improving, but still, if you look closely, there is still drop off from primary school transition. Just like Bufi said, there are a lot of population still. Tertiary education is still low, and there are people that's that idle, right? And if you go further, and then this is a quite important paper by Amanda Beatty and with colleagues at Smeru, Daniel, Pak Asep, and so forth, that using the data from IFLS, where individuals, children were asked the same a set of numerical questions, and they look at 2000 and 2014 data, and it actually saw a decline in learning that is quite large, approximately by 0.2 standard deviation. So, in fact, so this is like they at the same age, same cohort, then they have to do the same the numerical test, and this shows that okay, we have addressed the quantity, the attendance, the enrollment, but in terms of quality, there's still an issue. And of course, everyone knows about our records with PISA tests, how we still lag behind other countries that at the same development stage as ours. So looking at longitudinal lens, again, here is about transition, and this is again using data from IFRS. And this is a paper that Teguh Yudo from UI Tiga and myself for a few years back, that look at school transition, right? So how early adverse experiences in schooling, when you have great retention, will have cast a long shadow and in affecting your outcome in later life, in later schooling. And this showed the transition between school level, between years. So the drop off, even though it's improving over years, there is still an issue there. And we see that, and on the positive side, we see that household background and household and parental background actually weaken the relationship, which means there is a role of if you have from a better background, if you have early adverse experience, you can catch up. You can you can address this. You're better off than if you're from a worse background. So in terms of going to think about gender, and you think about human capital, and one of the main reasons, not the only reason, of that to get education is to be able to enter the job market and get a better job. Now, there are unequal outcomes in terms of output, because women in Indonesia, they tend to work in lower skill, lower earning sectors, and this is actually using Socrates, not IFRS, despite the fact that over the years or the decades, there's a parity in education. Women men and women, there are actually there's not much difference anymore in terms of education. Women also have lower labor attachment, so they'll start working, but they left in their mid-20s, mostly because of family formation, marriage, and childbearing, and so they have a lower labor attachment. And we talk about how our skills can really quickly depreciate, and if you actually working in a formal sector, or you will gain firm specific or sector specific skills, once you lose the job, you cannot use the skill, or the skill depreciates. So there's obviously a gender disadvantage here, and they also suffer from significant child penalty. And this is the work that Madikawati and I done with using IFOS, looking at women who were working around the first childbirth, and see that the probability of working dip when they were the first childbirth, and then only takes a few years. Sorry, this is meant to show higher and lower education, and it takes a few years, right, for women to actually able to enter the labor market. So they have to, and the trajectory will never catch up because they lose those years outside the labor market. And there are still, again, from here is from Rakenas, Dong, and Madikawati, showing still the old barriers that still persist. Decrease in the wage gap in high-end service, women living former employment around that age, mid-20s, and declining marriage age. So it's not a positive sign. And another examples of things that we can look at using this longitudinal lens and also gender perspective is this is a paper by Wicaksono and Mangunsong. It's forthcoming in BS. I think it's already published online, that trying to look at author's framework of trying to divide jobs into different tasks, where there are jobs that are manual and routine, and that there are manual but require a certain amount of cognitive skills. But there's also jobs that require that high cognitive skills and non-manual, right? So and they try to look at the association between those types of job with wages. And this is important because the job is changing very rapidly, even before AI. And this paper is actually talking more about automation. And you would expect jobs that are routine and manual will be replaced, will be insecure, right? And as is shown here, that there's a negative slope between those type of job with wages. Although in Indonesia, routine cognitive jobs still command a higher wage. But you can expect, again, going back to the earlier pictures where women and men are segregated into different jobs, different occupation, then in general, women will be in works that are more routine and more insecure. Okay, and therefore more insecure. So those are the kind of we're thinking about human capital investment, but those are places where there are always there's a lot of shortcomings that should be addressed if we want to think about is investing sustainably and strategically. So let me see about the time. Okay. Okay, I'm now moved to gender and to health. Sorry, and again, I'm try to bring the framework of the same model and thinking about health production function. And note that some of these are outside individual controls, and environmental factors can include disease environment, can include policy, food availability, prices of health, access of services, and access to JKN and so forth. And remember that as also education, health is dynamic. Is what you experience in the early childhood may have long-term effects in terms of health, but also can spill over to your other measures of human capital and also well-being. And gender differences in health outcomes started early can very likely shape throughout your life course. So norms, institutions that affect your outcomes, your health outcome when you're still even in utero or in early years will propagate through the life course. And you can think of and probably more important than education, the life cycle course approach is, you cannot escape that in terms of health. There are stages that you go through as you go older, right? And how did Indonesia fare in terms of health? Well, again, we start with the most common, the easier numbers that we like to look at, which is infant mortality rate and increasing life expectancy. All good, but we all know that Indonesia has a severe stunting problem, right? We have been hearing this for many years, and while it continues to decline, and probably will continue to decline, but it will. We cannot expect this to dramatically drop, because the way cohort moves, it just doesn't work that way. So we should expect gradual decline if everything works well, right? And so it's still going to be a major concern in years, and will continue to have long-term consequences. And this is a paper from a recent PhD graduate of UNPAD that used IFLS, Esta, right? She's looking at, trying to look at stunting in early childhood with later outcome, cognition. She showed that there's a negative association between between stunting and outcomes, and there are other outcomes as well that they look in the paper. So the evidence is there. Early childhood, you will have consequences that spill over to not only health but also education and economic outcomes.
Sorry, Pak Firman, you have 5 minutes left.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there is evidence of partial catch-up that suggests scope for policy intervention. And I wanted to, there's more evidence that, I'm close. For example, this is a working paper that I have that I worked on with Elan, Satriawan, and Ranjan and Takashi Yamano, that look at anemia. And the reason we look at this is it's important to look at anemia from at younger women, even before they are they are about to at the age of their first childbirth, because then this is accumulated, and we see that the problem. We see that anemia is a problem in in the whole range of income, a socioeconomic background of women in Indonesia. It's not just for the poor. So everyone, a lot of 63% experience anemia, and this is using objective blood measurement. And again, I think final examples of health is this paper that I worked on a few years ago that tried to look at the health outcome, right? And that is measured by allostatic load. This is the load, the long-term effects of long-term measure that we think that we associate with the pregnancy outcome much earlier in their life. And we find evidence that pregnancy with negative outcome lead to negatively associated with other measure of health with the allostatic load. So, and then there's emerging issues that's related to health and very gender that have to do with aging, right? So and the way that related to division of work, division of domestic care, who have to do what, that will have also along a very strong gender dimension, and related to how human capital is being accumulated. So now, so that is the sort of examples that I'm trying to look at human capital from using a gender lens, and also taking advantage of longitudinal data. So what do we learn? What do I expect we can learn from this? Well, I think, well, first of all, the key takeaway, right? I think so. We know that human capital investment are often multi-household and individual decision, but both of which can be and always are affected by policies, by program, whether directly on health or education or through prices. Gender is not simply a comparative angle to compare, but also can be used as a policy design. It should be used as a policy design lever that make investment to make investment in education and health go further. And for example, there are programs like that look at that specifically increase labor participation that will also generate income and lead to better higher income and better health. Programs that improve female adolescent health will have intergenerational education and health impacts. And there are programs like PKH that are actually put women as a gender as a conditionality, and therefore a different channel where gender issues can play an important role. You should do that, and we can use the tools that are disposable, whether we're an economist or our background is political economy, sociology. We can use that. So, and finally, and going back to the lens that I'm using, it's really important to have high quality data, preferably longitudinal data that can shed lights on how health, education, investment, and also economic shocks can impact women and men differently. And it is indispensable. It's indispensable if we want to track how our investment perform over time. That's it from me. Thank you for the opportunity, and we can go to question and answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Firman, for your very wonderful presentation. Yeah, it's such completing the previous speaker also. We talk about the poverty, and now we are talking about the human capital more. Yeah, and this is the session for Q&A. This participant, please raise your hand in the chat box. Yeah, and I will mention your name. Yeah, please ask. Please, if there are any question, ask directly to Pak Firman. The time is yours. Raise your hand, mention your name and affiliation. Ya, Pak Khalifani Astiriji, the time is your part.
Okay, it's very interesting. Thank you very much, Mas Firman, for your presentations, and we meet again.
Yes.
And well, yes, I want to talk to discuss specifically related to gender and human capital. And based on your presentations, that yeah, even with the progress in education and health, women still face major barriers. For instance, like um, early exits from the labor market, care burdens, and the long shadow of the early disadvantage. And why do you think this gap remain even when women and men start from similar levels of education? And secondly, I think most of the existing studies on human capital come from the Western context where common interventions often work well. But in Indonesia, there are deeper social constraints like gender norms and family roles that are much harder to address. And what kind of interventions do you think are needed to overcome this challenge? And, and do you think education alone is enough to unlock women's full potential in this setting? Okay, thank you.
And thank you so much, Kalifani, for the questions. Yeah, I mean, this is, if I can answer this, I would be a minister of manpower, maybe. So the issue of women labor market is puzzling because female labor position has been stagnating, and some of the issues are well known. We just don't know how to deal with it. It's largely has to do with the difference in time use in the time burden of women in terms of domestic care and of children, that is, like you said, very affected by social norms, but also by policy and infrastructure, right? So that's why there are policies now for early childhood education or child care, whether it's community-based or that. And there are actually research that try to think about an intervention to introduce, childcare to make it easier for women to reduce their time, this unfair, unequal time burden, right? So, and there are other also intervention actually that I know the studies that try to work with norms, trying to shift the norms a little bit and this is a study by Lisa Cameron and she's currently doing with a couple other authors. They're trying to try to introduce the norm of how are you okay if your wife work or if your daughter-in-law, and this is similar as been in other countries, that actually learning that people tend to perceive that it's okay for women to work actually can shift your norm. Well, it can shift your norm. So there are a lot of things like, but this takes time, right? And of course, there is also an active labor market policy, the real policy that at the national level that government can do to deal with that. So I think everything has to be done in parallel. It's not, but addressing those key issues, especially around norm, around that affect time use, is very difficult. One more. I want to say one more thing about that. It's also demand side, right? Because we started by thinking about micro foundation of this, but yeah, and all these policies assume that women really want to work. Everyone want to work, but there are barriers because the labor market or the institution doesn't support them. But there's probably also a demand side of it that maybe if as your income is high, you value leisure more, and to the extent that there is a demand for education, maybe it's not the demand for is to get higher earning, but it's just education as a consumption good. And this is, I think, the research that my colleague here, Saradong, is trying to is doing it. Whether maybe, for example, a lot of Indonesians now start to go to college, become a university student, just because they think it's something that you need to do, even though they don't have any plan to work. It's not entirely a supply or institutional issue.
Okay, thank you, Mas Firman. Maybe just one more question, which is I think this is very hard question. I don't know whether you can answer. When is the next wave of IFLS comes up?
Okay, if I write down I have a list of people who ask me that question. I have a very thick book already. Yeah, just stay tuned. We're not giving up yet.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Berman.
Thank you, Pak Khalifani. And the next question, we have another question from Ibu Sri, if I'm not mistaken. Please mention your name and also your affiliation. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for the opportunity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yes, thank you for your interesting presentations, Mr. Firman. Well, in this seminar or conference, I think I heard about the children, the women, and the youngster program or the youth. But I rarely do not hear about the elderly. I mean, the age after pension. So how about the Australian government program to care for the elderly to keep productive? I mean, what is the government or maybe private institution programs to assist the elderly or the age after pensions to keep their dignity and also the productive activities besides the health program facilitated by the government? I think you are live in Australia, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mr. Firman. So maybe you can share. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I think aging. I had a slide say something about aging. It's an emerging issues, but actually it has been emerging issues in Indonesia for a while. It's not. It's actually a now issue, and of course the issue with us is whether the older population can live a healthy old life, an active life with dignity, like you said, and also with sufficient resources with that for their daily living, right? And then and in other countries like Australia, the main program to do that is a pension system. It's that you once you get into formal sector, then you will have a superannuity. Your employees, just like we have in I think BPJS has there's a BPJS part that also deals with that, right? So you put in money when as soon as you work, and so did your employer, and you hope to accumulate enough by the time you try. But it's really a fiscal it's a huge fiscal policy. It is a system that's and I think eventually Indonesia has to go to that direction, because what happened in countries like where the formal pension doesn't exist, then you rely on families, and then we all hear about the sandwich generation and things like that, and also that means in Indonesia a lot of people entering their older age cannot afford not to work. They have to work until they're very old until they can work, especially if they are in the formal sector, because there are simply no other means to for them to get income. So I think that it is not an emerging issue. I should change this slide. It's already an issue now. It has been an issue that somehow Indonesia need to address. And the other, of course, health, right? So once you want a longer, healthy life, not just a longer life. And there is huge. Indonesia is facing a huge problem on that dimension because of the emerging non-communicable diseases that we have not addressed properly, and that means we will have a lot of older people will live an unhealthy life, which means that they cannot, they will have lower well-being. So that's also an issue. I don't, like I said, I don't give solutions. I just mention more issues. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Gusri, and also Afiram for the answering. We have two last questions from the audience here. The first one from Damir, our student, from Uzbekistan. Please open your mic and directly, very short, brief question, and direct to the two topic.
Assalamu alaikum. I think it's hearing, right?
I can hear you, yeah.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Firman. I'm really happy to see your presentation. Thank you very much for your presentation. So my first question is, there are a lot of problems that are not only Indonesia, but Uzbekistan and all other countries are facing. So my first question is, the problems related to with money, or are there any bottom line reasons that are kind of facing this kind of issues? So second question is, if the problem is belong to money, as you know, human capital investment takes a lot of time. So from outside, I think that investors cannot agree to invest their money in the human capital because they need to wait a lot of time. So in this situation, what should the government in Indonesia or Uzbekistan do that in order to improve their education or their to solve these problems? Thank you very much for your answers.
Yes, thank you so much for that. That's also a good question. So why is the problem just resources, and why? Suppose we are rich, will this problem go away, right? So, well, as an economist, we know there will not be enough concern ever. There will. So even, but I think the issue is whether we use the limited resource strategically or efficiently, and because first of all, because there is externalities that even though this is individual decision, government have a justification to step in to spend their money to invest in human capital because of the social returns that it generates. But again, the question is how to do it properly. And we see that, for example, in terms of the examples in education, right? We see students that are all progressing to higher school, spend more time in schooling, but that didn't end up learning more. And that's an issue, not because probably not of not enough money, but not to spend it correctly, or for example, investing in quality, the teacher quality. I think so, there was a question earlier about that, things like that. So yeah, and gender, this is where gender is important, because there are a lot of things that once you take gender into account and you try to invest more in the health and education of women, and a lot of the issues that we see in education and health of not only of women can be mitigated, and there are this amplifying effect, this complementarity between investing in human capital of women in trying to consciously invest that in trying to reduce the gender differences that actually will generate multiplier effect. So that's that question actually helped me to focus again on the my point earlier. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think we almost run out of time before this is very last question from Pak Wahyu. The time is yours, Pak Wahyu. Open your mic.
Okay, thank you so much for the time. Hello, Dr. Firman. My name is Wahyu. I just ask your opinion. Why are there so few government preschool? It should be more economically affordable if provided by the school, by the government, which would also reduce the burden of the mother's time as parent to care for the children that can be used for work, and also perhaps have a greater impact on children who study at the preschool. Is it possible that there are special consideration from the government, especially our Indonesian government? Because I see there is a lot of preschool, but it's a private preschool rather than the government school. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, a great question. So, we do have there is an expansion. Has been an expansion of preschool in Indonesia. Then I have a student here, a PhD student, who's writing a paper that looks at the expansion of early care school that have some effects, that actually showing some effects on women. But again, there's the issue is resources, and there's also the issue is also quality, right? And you want to, because if the preschool can only open, or daycare, for example, opens only half day or at most like during the work day, right? Mostly, and you need people who are actually responsible, trained, and know how to deal with kids. So it's not just a building, right? So that requires resources. But the fact that a lot of preschool or daycare can only open a limited amount of time, that still limit the kind of work that women can take. For example, they have to have either flexible hours or only work at certain hours. And again, there is no, I mean, whether the government, whether there's enough justification for a large scale daycare program or early school program, that I think remain to be seen. There are efforts in trying to start community care, daycare, and or community, which is not school, community daycare that also I think have mixed results. Some work and some just doesn't provide what the woman needs. Yeah. So yeah, it's another list of things that we have to think how to invest strategically.
Okay, thank you. I think we ran out of the time. So this is the end of the session. This is the end of Pak Firman's session. So before I hand over to the Master of Ceremony, I think this is the session for the session, right? So for all the presenters, I would like to thank for your questions and response. And please open your camera. Yeah, the operator will take our picture in the session. Operator, are you ready? Yeah, I think they are ready, right? So yeah, 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you so much. So thank you, Pak Firman, for your insightful presentation.
Thank you, Pak Firman.
Terima kasih.
Thank you, Mas Firman.
Thank you semua.
Thank you, Pak Firman.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I hand over fully the time to Mr. Master Ceremony. Yeah, thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eki Imamul Muttaqin, for guiding the plenary session. So now I'd like to thank our co-hosts, which are University Muhammadiyah Purwokerto, University Atmajaya Yogyakarta, Bina Nusantara University, University Muhammadiyah Malang, and University Islam International Indonesia. Lastly, thank you very much for participants and all of co-hosts. And of course, our beloved speakers, Dr. Vivi Alatas and Associate Professor Firman Vitolar. I'm going to remind you that at 15:30, there will be closing ceremony. Please refer to the Zoom meeting that is written in the book of program. Once again, thank you very much for your attention and your participation. I hope we will meet and collaborate next events. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Selamat datang di program studi Ekonomi, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Program studi ekonomi memiliki visi menjadi program studi ekonomi yang unggul dalam pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi berlandaskan nilai-nilai Islam di Asia Tenggara pada tahun 2025. Program studi ekonomi bertujuan membentuk lulusan yang kreatif, inovatif, menguasai teknologi informasi dan komunikasi, serta berwawasan nasional dan internasional. Program studi ekonomi Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta memiliki 4 enrichment course, yaitu ekonomi pembangunan berkelanjutan, ekonomi kreatif, ekonomi kesehatan, serta ekonomi keuangan dan perbankan Islam.
Welcome to Faculty Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Economic study program with excellent accreditation is the right place for those who are interested in becoming professionals for economic institutions, banking and finance, and also research center Indonesia. Economic study program Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta is the third of the best study programs in Indonesia in the field of economics, econometrics, and finance based on Simago institution rankings. Economic study program Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta born to be number 1.
The Economic Study Program, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta has 2 graduate profiles, namely as economic analysts and entrepreneurs who are equipped with knowledge and insights on various topics related to the problems faced both in macro and micro spheres. Various analytical tools are studied and applied in various cases, supported by technology and integration of Islamic values in each courses.
Dalam memberikan pengalaman belajar yang prima bagi mahasiswa, program studi ekonomi memiliki beberapa fasilitas yang menunjang pembelajaran, seperti ruang kuliah yang nyaman, perpustakaan, student lounge, kelas IT, BI Corner, Bursa Efek Indonesia, mini bank, masjid, fasilitas olahraga, kantin dan kafe mahasiswa, serta sportorium. Selain itu, program studi ekonomi memperkenalkan rencana evakuasi darurat seperti jalur evakuasi, titik kumpul, alat pemadam kebakaran, hydran, serta baju pemadam kebakaran. Melalui program internasional, kami memiliki kegiatan pertukaran pelajar dengan institusi terkemuka di dunia, seperti universitas di Malaysia, Tiongkok, Taiwan, Turki, Timur Tengah, negara-negara Eropa, dan Afrika. Alumni program studi ekonomi bekerja di beberapa institusi bergengsi seperti Bank Indonesia, Otoritas Jasa Keuangan, Kementerian Luar Negeri, Lembaga Penjamin Simpanan, Keuangan Mikro Syariah, dan lain sebagainya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good night, I'm Unity Tanya Velasta, IPF student batch 2019, Faculty of Economic and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. In here, I'm not only learning in the class, but also I have many other interesting experience, such as attending seminar with extraordinary speakers, learning culture and history directly in museum and other historical places. I also had the opportunity to do an internship here at COSAM, a company engaged in research and development in Turkey.
IPF had given me a lot of opportunities to enhance my potentials, including my potentials in international levels. So they always push me to the limit that I have to involve in many international activities such as student exchange, international paper competitions, and EDGE. And this experience really helped me to fostering my leadership skills, my independent skill, as well as my participation in international communities.
Program studi ekonomi mengadakan event internasional seperti International Conference on Islamic Economics and Financial Inclusion setiap 2 tahun. Summer Course International Training for Young Islamic and Economics Leaders setiap tahun. Selamat datang di program studi ekonomi, Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta, Indonesia. Program studi ekonomi memiliki visi menjadi program studi ekonomi yang unggul dalam pengembangan ilmu pengetahuan dan teknologi berlandaskan nilai-nilai Islam di Asia Tenggara pada tahun 2025. Program studi ekonomi bertujuan membentuk lulusan yang kreatif, inovatif, menguasai teknologi informasi dan komunikasi, serta berwawasan nasional dan internasional. Program studi ekonomi Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta memiliki 4 enrichment course, yaitu ekonomi pembangunan berkelanjutan, ekonomi kreatif, ekonomi kesehatan, serta ekonomi keuangan dan perbankan Islam.
Welcome to Faculty Economics and Business, Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta. Economic study program with excellent accreditation is the right place for those who are interested in becoming professionals for economic institutions based on Simago institution rankings. Economic study program Universitas Muhammadiyah Yogyakarta born to be number 1.
The Economic Study Program, Faculty of Economics and Business, Universitas